The workflow is assigned to PromptSets. The object enables rudimentary UI capabilities to prompt users for interactive inputs. They can enter values stored in variables, which are then used as orchestration, essentially a sequencing mechanism in task properties. PromptSets are simple UIs with fields, labels, and default value masks. These UIs execute when the object is activated. The values stored in variables can be used in scripted logic conditions, task behaviors, and many other places. PromptSets offer a variety of input types and formats: yes, no, checkboxes, number values, dates, or radio buttons. They include masks to force the input type, for example, yes, no. This makes designing prompts very easy. We're going to show how PromptSets work, and then we'll demo a simple yes-no question, the result of which drives a decision path in the workflow. The use case contains a prompt set called Smart Meter Processing Parameters, inviting users to set the records they want to process. It's applied to the entire workflow so that captured values are available to all tasks. We have two record types, Standard and Special, selectable with a drop-down menu. We can also set the number of records to be processed by the task. Finally, we have date and time fields. These values are stored in variables, which you can use throughout the entire lifecycle of the workflow. This is reflected in the message issued by Automic. We start with a simple workflow. It has 3 tasks. The first and third are set to execute on every scheduled instance of the workflow. The middle task is set to skip if certain conditions are met. They're defined using a variable and a PromptSet combo. At workflow activation, the user decides whether the middle task should be skipped or not. The variable stores yes or no as a value based on the user response captured by the PromptSet. Next, we create a PromptSets which applies to the entire workflow as well. PromptSets allow for any sort of user inputs, numbers, text, dates, or anything else. In our case, we're expecting a yes or no answer, so logically the radio button makes the most sense. If you were choosing from a limited set of options, the checkbox might make the most sense. If a longer list of options, then you'd choose the combo box. The data reference will set your mask and pare down the available options. Look for yes, and the yes or no options are displayed. We have 2 options, yes or no, and true or false. We use the first one. Remember, PromptSets are basic user interfaces. The label is what the user sees, so it's important to make it meaningful so the users know exactly what they're being asked. In the variable field, we set the variable we created for the workflow. The remaining options are as follows. You can configure the setting of the default option. It's either manual, which is what we want, since the PromptSet captures our user inputs, or set by variable, which you would then have to create and assign a value to. Tooltip displays additional information, such as extended instructions when users hover the mouse over the box. Set focus places the cursor in the box automatically when the prompt is activated, and read only means the value cannot be altered. We won't dwell on the advanced settings as they're not in scope for the use case. We've created the PromptSets. We can now apply it to the workflow. Remember to set a default value since we selected that option when we created the PromptSets. We can check the properties. We use preconditions to condition the execution of the task on the value stored in the variable set by the PromptSet user inputs. We're using a user-defined variable. We set the behavior of the task on the yes or no value. Conditioning relies on if-then-else type logic. If the value of the variable is no, then we run the task, otherwise we skip. Final options exist to set the behavior of the task or workflow if the condition is not met. You can block the entire workflow to prevent the process from completing. It assumes a block status, which suggests operator intervention. You can also cancel the workflow, which takes an abend or failed status. You can run the task. The last option is the most appropriate for our needs. We skip the task but allow the workflow to proceed. Some conditions can be set on a cycle. For example, if the condition is not met, you can set it to rescan in X number of minutes. The one icon means one and done. The condition is checked once and then proceeds with the rest of the logic. The repeat icon performs the condition check either on a time interval or a number of repetitions, and only then, after repeated failures, Automic proceeds with the logic. You must provide a message that will display when the task is skipped. We can execute the workflow. The task is skipped.